On June the 10th, Kreator released their 15th studio album, Hate Uber Alles. So that's very exciting indeed. And you will already have formed an opinion, I reckon, of the first 3 singles from this album. Hate Uber Alles, the title track, followed by Strongest of the Strong, and most recently, Midnight Sun. But what's the rest of the album like? How does the whole thing hang together? And is Hate Uber Alles as good as its predecessor, Gods of Violence, or that album's predecessor, Phantom Antichrist? In this video, I'm going to give you my first impressions, including this album's strengths and weaknesses, and then at the very end, I'm going to tell you what I consider to be the best track on the whole thing. Welcome back to Possessed by Metal. I'm Jason Arnott. I worked on Kerrang! Magazine in the 80s and 90s, and I'm still alive. If you haven't ordered Hate Uber Alles, the album yet, then you'll find ordering links downstairs in the video description. Let's talk first about the 3 songs we've already heard from the album. I did a reaction video for the title track, and that track is still a stormer, isn't it? I think it's an absolute delight. It's faster than anything on either of these 2 albums that I just mentioned, and it's a really good song, and so that's a great opener for the album. And then Strongest of the Strong, the second single from this album, is really good too, but in a very different and kind of more familiar way. It's kind of one of Kreator's mid-paced melodic songs, quite kind of, well, commercial in a metal way. Strongest of the Strong is one of the album's more melodic songs, and the same goes for the most recent single, Midnight Sun, which has some really interesting female vocals in there, and a generally kind of melodic and slightly different approach. And I wasn't entirely sure what I thought of it at first, but I'm starting to get into it, and I'd like to hear, as with all of this stuff, anything you've heard and you have an opinion on, I would like to hear from you down in comments. So that's 3 tracks. There are 11 tracks on the whole album. What's the rest like? So obviously one of those tracks we can kind of discount because that's an intro called Sergio Corbucci is Dead. And to be honest, I can hardly even remember what it sounds like because you're kind of waiting for it to, you know, go into the title track, aren't you? That is kind of an intro really to Hate Uber Alles, I guess. Now, I think that when some of us old school thrashers heard the thrashy title track, part of us kind of thought we really had a bit of hope in our hearts, didn't we? That this might be a Kreator's answer to Rain in Blood. Although, of course, their answer to Rain in Blood was Pleasure to Kill in the same year that Rain in Blood came out. There is some more thrash on this album, although pound for pound, I'm not sure whether this album has actually more fast parts and sections than Gods of Violence. But, you know, if we're judging Kreator in 2022 on how fast they are, then, you know, we're probably going to be disappointed, aren't we? But having said that, the great thing about the second track on this album, or at least the second, it's the third track on the album, but it's the second proper track, Killer of Jesus. The great thing about this song is that straight after this opening thrashy title track, Killer of Jesus is really thrashy as well. And I must admit, when I first heard the album, that really did start to give me hope that, you know, all the songs might be fast. But, of course, we know from the other 2 singles that, you know, it's more or less business as usual elsewhere on this album. And that's okay. You know, Kreator have their kind of post-millennial style that they have developed and honed. And there's a lot of familiar kind of song structuring and riffing here from Mille Petrosa, but it's great stuff. It's become pretty unique to Kreator. And it's a great riffing style, and it's a really effective Euro melodic power kind of songwriting style, and so that's fine. But yeah, Kill of Jesus is pretty fast, so that's great to have that as the second song on the album. I may as well go through the remaining tracks in the order that they appear on the album. So track 4, the third track proper, is Crush the Tyrants. And now this song is currently one of my least favourite songs on this album. It's very slow and kind of just... It's kind of ordinary, really. I'm not really into it. I haven't quite managed to get into it. Maybe I will. Who knows? You know, it's called Crush the Tyrants. Maybe that title kind of sets you up for something that it isn't. I don't know. It sounds like an awesome Kreator song, doesn't it? Crush the Tyrants. But yeah, as yet, I'm not hearing the magic on that particular song. It's okay. If you find yourself enjoying this video, then feel free to hit the like button and subscribe for more metallic information, nostalgia, and entertainment. Next up is Strongest of the Strong, which we've already discussed, and then after that is Become Immortal, which is a great song. Great song. There's a lot of Iron Maiden influence, isn't there, in Kreator these days? It's coming in more and more, I think, and you can definitely hear it at the start of this song, and you know, you can hear it in every bit of dual guitar melody that is on this album. And Become Immortal is a really good melodic mid-paced song, and it's better than Strongest of the Strong, I think. Really uplifting and kind of about being true to yourself. Kreator are really good at rabble-rousing, aren't they? It feels like when they're writing songs these days, they really want to see those fists in the air at gigs, and there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, and Become Immortal is a great song. And so is the next song, which has the awesome Kreator-y title of Conquer and Destroy. Now, Conquer and Destroy is interesting. There's some more Iron Maiden guitar work in this song. An interesting one because it's quite fast. It's got a fast... it opens up quite fast, really, quite thrashy. Towards the end, there's a riff, a kind of a weird riff that I've never really heard from Kreator before. So it's great that, you know, on album number 15, there's a kind of a mid-paced kind of chunky kind of riff, but with a hint of, dare I say, groove to it. That I've never heard Kreator do before, and it's really good. Yeah, Conquer and Destroy is a really strong track. The next song, track number 8 on the album, is Midnight Sun. We've talked about that. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Demonic Future next, track number 9. Now, Demonic Future really pricked my ears up because it kind of starts off almost like a track that could have been on Terrible Certainty or something, or Extreme Aggression, I guess. It's got a really good kind of galloping riff at the start, and it sounds really old school, so I was loving that. And the song stays really good. It's up tempo. It's pretty fast. Not super thrashy, but it's got some really good sections in it and really, really strong riffs and quite a bit of variety within one song. And of course, it's got a really cool title. Anything with demonic in it, that's great, isn't it? We Thrash fans also love anything with the word future in it. You know, see also Primitive Future and Future World by Helloween. That was the only other one I could think of. We're almost at the end of the album now. I know, it went fast, didn't it? Track number 10 is Pride Comes Before the Fall, and this is a great big kind of Kreator epic kind of... Even though I've been describing songs as mid-paced or faster, one nice thing about this album is that the songs are not very predictable. You know, with some Kreator songs from the last decade or so, a song starts up at one tempo and you can kind of more or less get the feel of it straight away, whereas some of these songs kind of wrong foot you by starting off slow and going fast, or starting fast and going slower. And so there's a bit more variety, I think, here, which is good. And Pride Comes Before the Fall is kind of a mixture of stuff. It's a really big song. It's really powerful and really strong. I haven't quite fully got into it yet, but I know it's good. I know I like it. And I wish I could say the same for the closing song, track number 11, Dying Planet. This is the final song on the album. And, oh dear, it's... Final songs, don't you think, can be especially disappointing on the first listen, because when you're coming towards that final song, you're looking at the title and you haven't heard it yet and you're thinking, God, this song, it's the last song on the album, this is going to be great. Unfortunately, Dying Planet does not give me that kind of feeling. I don't really know what kind of feeling it's supposed to give me. It's a kind of an odd song that doesn't really go anywhere. It kind of does build up, but not to a crescendo. It doesn't really do anything. Currently, not for me. Yeah, I mean, but 11 songs on the album, including the intro, and the only 2 songs that I don't really like are Crush the Tyrants and Dying Planet, so that's not too bad. Now, while I'm on the negative side of things, I should mention something that is bothering me about this album in general. I don't think the production is as good as Gods of Violence, unfortunately. Now, I don't know, you might have heard this for yourself, obviously, from the 3 singles. I'd like to hear what you think down in comments. But the you can hear this particularly on the faster sections and the faster tracks. There isn't as much separation between the instruments as there was on the previous album, I don't think. And the guitars are not as loud or as clear as they were on the last album. And that's a shame. I mean, I think maybe it's a bit of a trade-off because they had started to sound a little bit sterile, just a little bit on Gods of Violence. And so maybe they were trying to make it sound a bit more live without going the full Terrible Certainty. And that kind of comes across. You know, the sound is okay, the sound is good, but after Gods of Violence, which did have a really strong production, yeah, it's a bit of a shame. But is this album as good as Gods of Violence? It's too early to tell for sure, but I think it might well be, actually, because there are a couple of songs on Gods of Violence that I wasn't particularly excited about, I guess, and so I think more or less they're on a par. And Gods of Violence actually has quite a bit of fast stuff in it. You know, it's too easy to kind of describe this new album as like a return to thrash metal. It's not really. It's the same mix of stuff. It's modern Kreator, which is kind of paying tribute to its past while inventing new stuff. There's quite a few bits of interesting kind of stuff here, especially with the vocals. It's an interesting album, and I'm still in the process of getting into it. So, you know, if you're watching this 6 months or a year or 2 years down the line, I still want to hear from you in comments, and I want to hear what you think of this album. So please do comment. Oh, and what's my favourite song on the album? At the moment, it's the aforementioned Demonic Future. It's got lots of heavy riffs, lots of time changes, and it's called Demonic Future. You know, you can't say fairer than that. I kind of judge albums by the tracks that I pick for my Amazon Music favourite songs playlist, and Demonic Future would be one of the songs on this album that I would put on there, along with Hate Uber Alles, Become Immortal, Conquer and Destroy, Pride Comes Before. There's lots of songs I'd put on my playlist of great metal, so that's really promising. Please like if you like this video, and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm going to fill the rest of the screen with other creator videos I've made on this channel, including me unboxing the Under the Guillotine box set, reacting to the Hate Uber Alles song, and also ranking the first 6 Kreator studio albums. Hope you enjoy whatever you choose to watch next, and also metal.